Welcome, cadets from 80 Squadron. This is Second Lieutenant Dietrich with you today, and I'm about to go through with you a boot polishing tutorial. Now, I know with the coronavirus going on, a lot of things have changed, but we as officers and your staff members, we want to continue to stimulate your interest in the program. We want to keep you engaged, and part of our way of doing that is to continue with your morale and your esprit de corps, which begins with taking pride in your appearance. And the number one rule for that is maintaining your uniform. So I want to provide a challenge or a competition for all of you that will involve shining your boots. It will involve sending myself a picture of a before and after photo, and the winners will be selected by a number of us so that it will be an unbiased decision. And we will have rewards such as best boots, most improved, and perhaps another number of categories. So I welcome and invite you to follow along with this video and find a way that works for you for polishing. I'm going to go over probably just one method, but there are a number of methods. But to keep it basic and with the supplies that you may not have available to you, I'm just going to give you the fundamentals of polishing boots, and we will go from there. So first things first, I want to go over the setup for you guys and the number of supplies that you should expect to have to be successful in this competition. So first and foremost, you need a kiwi cloth. There are a number of other cloths people use, but I highly recommend the kiwi cloth specifically. It's always been recommended to me over the past decade, and it has done me well. You can find this at Shoppers Drug Mart, which I believe is still open. So if you're able to, go pick one up, and that will be the starting piece. Before you begin polishing at all, make sure that you have an area that you can polish that is not going to get you in trouble from mom and dad. You can do that by laying down another kiwi cloth or newspaper, or perhaps, like me, I have an old table, so if it gets a little dirty, I don't mind, but double check with your parents first. So you want a kiwi cloth, you want polish. Again, kiwi polish. Now there's two types of polish you can get. At the most fundamental ingredient or polish that you can get is black kiwi shoe polish, again offered at Shoppers Drug Mart. Now if you can get your hands on parade gloss, it will benefit you greatly. However, that is not as easy to find, so today I will be using the basic shoe polish just so that the, I guess, competition, if you will, is even and fair. Again, another piece you want is either a boot brush, an old toothbrush, or both. Realistically, you can get by with just a toothbrush. You don't need the special boot brush. And I mean, everyone has a toothbrush. You will need some water, which we will later pour into our can of the lid of the kiwi shoe polish. Other measures involve men's aftershave, but again, like I said, this is just an extra mile you can go to. You don't need it. Water can do just as great of a job. And of course, you need your boots. Now I have both my boots here that actually were mine as an air cadet, and my shoes as an officer. My boots have a much better base, and so they're much easier to shine than my shoes are, so I will be working with both today to give you an example of how things can go if you have a well-started base, or if you are more advanced. So I'm going to begin by taking my shoe polish and opening it up, and I will leave it nearby, but I'm going to take my lid and pour just a small amount of water into it. You don't need to fill the whole cap with water, like I said, just a small amount. So this is what your setup should look like, and as we go forward I will go into the fundamentals of how to actually polish your boots. So to start here, you will notice I have two cans of boot polish opened. Just to verify, neither of those two are the parade gloss. Like I said, I want to keep things fair. The reason I have two is that I use one that sort of gets meshed a bit when I throw my brush into it, and I have another one that's more smooth that I use strictly just for polishing with my finger. So obviously if you have one, that's all you can do, but I've just accumulated many over the years. So what I normally like to start with is taking my boot and sort of back up. Before we start actually polishing, I need you to take a picture of your boots. So you're going to take a picture of both of your boots as your before photo. Then you're going to get into actually polishing them. So how I like to start is I like to darken the rims and the grooves of the boot with my toothbrush or my boot brush before I get into the actual polishing of the heel and the toe and the sides. So let's start with that. I'm going to take a good layer of my polish, rub it onto my toothbrush. I will put my hand into my boot for good support, and as I said, I am just going to brush in the edges of the boot. And now you want you to do that with both boots, of course. If you need some more polish, go ahead with your toothbrush. Alright, so when we start by actually polishing with the cloth, there's a key technique that you need to be aware of in terms of wrapping the cloth around your fingers. So I grab a boot and I'm ready to polish it. But I can't just have a big clump of a cloth to go around. That does not work. We need a fine tip for detail. And so in order to get that, I want you to take your cloth and pick a clean spot on the cloth. Put your finger into it. So you have a finger, and then you're going to wrap the rest of the cloth around your finger so that it's tight and you have one finger exposed like this. Now what I want to do is I want to dip it into the polish and water. So I'm going to take my polish, I'm going to wet my cloth just a little bit, and I'm going to do a few circles of polish. Should have about that much on your cloth. Again, there's a number of ways. This is the way that has worked best for me over the years. I then am going to take my boot, and you can see that mine has a good start on it already, so it's a quicker shine than somebody who has no shine. So don't expect your boots to be perfect the first time, but if you do this a few times within the week, it will be great by the end. So I will do both this boot and the shoe for reference. So I'm going to take my cloth with the polish, and I'm going to start on the toe of my boot, and I'm going to do large circles. I'm applying very, very light pressure, so this shouldn't be bothersome, and it shouldn't get a sore hand from doing so. In fact, if I was doing this for a while, I could watch a TV show or listen to music, and it shouldn't be bothersome. So I'm putting polish all around the boot of the toe. And the trick is that you want your cloth to continue to be moist. So I'm going to keep dabbing it with a little bit of water, and a little bit more polish. I'm going to go all around, so I'm doing the sides as well, because you don't want to cheat and just do the tips and the heels, because you can notice the difference. Once you have applied polish to the whole boot, which is how I start, I then focus on a key area. So for me, I start with the toe, and then I sort of divide the boot up into sections, and I work on a piece at a time. So I'm going to start with the toe for now. So again, I want my cloth to have polish on it, and I want it to be fairly moist, not soaked, but not dry. So putting an extra layer of polish, a little bit of water. And now I'm going to circle the toe of my boot with large circles a number of times. And I'm trying to find the angle that's greatest for you guys to see this, but boot boot polishing can be frustrating when you don't have the hang of it just yet, but once you get the technique down and you see that shine start, it actually becomes exciting, and then you try to test yourself and see how shiny you can get it. The idea is that you want to keep moving your finger in circles until you don't see circles on the boot any longer. While you're polishing, feel free to change areas of the cloth if you feel the need to do that. If you see your polish drying up, you can pick a new spot. I've had my cloth for a long time and there's still plenty of space to polish from. Now that I've done the toe, I'm going to move on to the sides. Again, I'm polishing in large circles in this area. The sides do not have as great of a coat as the tip does, so again, this might take a little longer than my toe did. So if you look closely, you can see a shine beginning to start in this patch of the boot here, and that will only continue the longer I do this. So like I said, when you're just starting off, you might have to do this for a while. Just find a TV show you like and just polish while you watch it. Alright, so the next step of the procedure is essentially just to continue that process along the whole boot. So I would go into this section next, and then I would start with my heel and follow the rest of my heel, the side, and then come back to the tip. But like I said, this is a boot that already has a very good fundamental shine, so this is easy for me. So I'm going to transition to picking up my shoe that is not as great, so that you can see that it's not always a quick polish like this one was. You'll notice that I have taken the shoelaces out of this. That's just for easier access when it comes to polishing the tongue, and just for my hand to slide into it. Obviously up to personal preference, do what you wish. So again, starting with a new piece of cloth, I'm going to dip it into some water and some polish so that I have about that much. And a little bit more water just to keep the cloth moist. Again, I'm going to go around the toe and all areas of the shoe to put a layer of polish on in big circles. When you do this, your shoe will look like a matte black. It won't be shiny, it'll just be a full dark cloudy black. And that is the case even if your boot does have a nice shine already. It'll just cover it up, and then it will allow the polish to be to come out once you do start fine-tuning it. So I'm going around my shoe, polishing in large circles, essentially just covering my whole shoe in polish. So I have covered my full shoe now, and then I'm going to fine tune it. So like I said, you can keep the same spot with your finger, and you can focus on a key area of the shoe, and you continue to do that all around the shoe. So we'll start with my toe. This is where I'm going to complete a number of circles around the toe, essentially until A, I start to see a shine, or B, I stop seeing the circles on the boot. That is the key to starting a shine that will eventually turn into you seeing your own reflection in your boot. Now to finish off your boot, you want to do it in smaller circles on the focused areas. So what I typically do is water, polish, small amount, like that much, and I go in small circles around the boot. So let me do that for a bit. Now another thing that I want you to do, or know how to do, is that when you have creases in your boots that are from bending your foot and whatnot, they do start to become noticeable. So what you can do is take your toothbrush and rub it in your polish like we did in the beginning, and you just want to take the toothbrush and spread it across your boot. So you're just gonna spread it across the seam here. And that's when you're going to take your cloth back and you want to then polish your crease into the rest of your toe. Transition it so that you don't have a matte black and a shine. You're just going to do your circles again and transition it. This can take a little bit longer, so I'm just showing you a piece of it. And when you're all done with your shoes and your boots, you obviously have to do both shoes, and you have to find the perfect medium into not having one more shiny. But you can see here that I've shined obviously this shoe and not this one today, right? So the idea is to just take a little bit of time with both shoes until you have a finished result that you like the most. And then when you're done, of course, the pictures. Now, as I was mentioning, once you send in your photos, they will be judged by a number of staff members so that it will be an unbiased opinion. They will have a number of votes, and we will come back to you with the prizes. And like I said, I know a number of you are already really good at polishing your boots, and that is why we are going to have a most improved boot prize, as well as a best boot prize, and possibly a few others. Now, just before we end things off here, I want to show you one little technique I've picked up over the years that can be pretty helpful. So if you can find yourself a bottle of aftershave, maybe ask your dad, you're going to use it just as you would use water. And the reason why this is helpful is because there's a little bit of alcohol content in the aftershave that can help with the shine. I learned it a few years ago, and I've never regretted it since. So you're going to take a lid, going to pour just a tiny amount of aftershave into the lid. You're going to take your finished product of your boot. So you can see mine has a shiny toe, and I'm going to grab a piece of cloth, and I'm going to use the aftershave like I would use water. But I'm going to take some polish, and not near as much as last time, but just a small amount on the tip of my finger. When I say small, I mean about that much. I'm going to dip it back into the aftershave. And then I'm going to do one final layer on the boot for an extra shine. And you might be able to see it working right away on the video. Maybe not as good as I can see it, but I will show you a result in a second. Sometimes at this stage I exhale onto the boot. This helps as well. And I do circles again. This is just a trick I learned over the years. I can do it a few more times with some more aftershave and exhale. And polishing in circles. I'm sure you can see the shine now because it increases it quite a bit. And to give you a comparison, just like I did with the shoes, this is my other boot. Again, it had a good fundamental shine already, but this is with the aftershave. This is without the aftershave. Mind you, they both have had this, but this is from probably a few weeks ago. If I'm not satisfied with the result, I can do just a little bit more polish. But you have to be careful when you choose to continue to work on it, because this is the part where it can become an unending process if you're not satisfied. And you'll just keep matting it and then shining it and then matting it and shining it. So at some point, you obviously have to stop. Another trick you can use in the final stages of the process, once you've only put a small amount of polish on your cloth like I suggested, is your circles become significantly smaller. So to demonstrate that, I will show you again. So you put a small amount of polish on the tip of your finger, about that much. And at the beginning, when we did circles that were large like this, instead we're using just the tip of that polish. We're doing tiny circles, probably smaller than the size of a dime. And this is where I would typically only do these on the focused areas, just for that extra boost in the shine. And you're gonna see your toe go matte black again, but it will shine again soon. So give me a minute and I will work on that and show you the result. Alright, and when you're all finished, and now again I've done one boot and one shoe, that I would probably continue to work on the sides, but I'm not going to do that for the whole video. You will have a result sort of like this. And like I said, it's not going to be perfect the first time, but if you do it a few times before your final submission, I assure you, you'll have a nice result. Again, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them by email. And I look forward to the end result and the winners we pick, and most definitely I like the idea of you working on your uniform while we're away from each other. So keep up your smile if you can, keep busy, and we look forward to when we can meet again.